Hey everyone, I'm Joe. Today I'm going to be doing a book review of The Calculating Stars and The Fated Sky, both by Mary Robinette Kowal. These were published by Tor in 2018. To be precise, they were published in July and August respectively. And this is a alternative history science fiction duology of which I greatly enjoyed and think very highly of. And I'll explain why in a moment. So first of all, I'll talk about a little bit of the history of the book and the setting that it's in. In The Calculating Stars, it starts off in the year 1952 and indeed starts off immediately with the alternative history aspect of the book, whereupon a giant meteor hits down the Earth, in particular Washington DC. It takes out Washington DC, which obviously is the political capital of America, and also does very large amounts of damage to the east coast of America as well. This has a massive impact on America and surrounding countries, and overall has a very large impact on the world, because of course this isn't just a small meteor, it's quite a large meteor. It creates massive tsunamis and aftershocks and things which affect multiple other countries, well, virtually every country really, and it also creates, and this is the most significant thing, very large amounts of ash in the atmosphere, and this creates the major plot point of the novel, because this ash cloud in the sky starts having an effect on the climate, the climate change, in a very negative and unfortunate manner, and basically things like crops and growing crops in particular start to fail. There is food crises all over the world, and basically the global economy is holding on but barely. It's nearly collapsing, but it's not quite managed it yet, because countries do actually realise that they have to cooperate to survive through this disaster. Some countries obviously don't, but that is always the case. Some people want to help, some people just seem to love chaos, frankly. And it's frankly the same as countries, amazingly. It applies on the whole. Well, that tends to be the political situation anyway. So, set amongst this is the main character called Elma York. She is a scientist, a genius mathematician. She used to be a fighter pilot, now she works for the equivalent of NASA, although in the book it's not called NASA because that never actually developed due to the alternative history nature of it. She gets caught, along with her husband Nathaniel, in the shockwave from the disaster, because she's in the mountains at the time, fairly distant, but it's a meteor, so it has a pretty significant impact. And she basically and her husband lose everything they own. They are homeless, no possessions, no anything. All they have is each other and themselves, their own minds. And that is one of the significant aspects of this book, because of their skill sets, because her husband Nathaniel happens to be a technical director of the alternative version NASA. They're both highly placed and very useful for many people in this situation, because they're both very technical, both highly educated, and both adaptive and able to survive under these circumstances, which frankly is what you need in something like this. And they do fairly well out of it, with a lot of help from many other supporting characters, of which there is a wide range, and they all work extremely well both individually. I mean, they're not just supporting characters in terms of them just walking on, helping out major characters and then walking away. Each of them are very strong in their own right, and there will be more books set within this world, and the focus of at least one of them will be on some of those aforementioned minor characters. So this should be an interesting situation later, next year and the year after, when these all books come out. Anyway, let's go back to this one. She starts working for the space program, because obviously being a pilot, she's very useful to them. Also, because she is a mathematician and an extremely good one, she becomes a computer for the system and starts working out the trajectories and all the mathematical equations needed for space flight, which is extremely important, because they think that we may have to go into the stars, humanity as a whole, to survive, frankly, because they're not sure if we will be able to actually survive on Earth for multiple many generations later, because it's just changing so drastically, and it's not really something we can fix. Obviously, I mean, we can alleviate it to a degree, but we're not going to be able to fix climate change on this scale this rapidly. That's not possible, especially not with 1950s technology. It wasn't advanced enough then. Although obviously, due to the disaster, technology levels do alter and are changed in interesting ways. Like all these things, big disasters and big wars tend to bring about great change and great technological advancement, which this is a good example, which is unfortunate, but it is just one of those things. However, Elma doesn't just want to be a mathematician and a computer purely working out the numbers. She knows that she's got the skills and the right frame of mind to go into the sky, hence the second book, The Fated Sky. She wants to be an astronaut who gets nicknamed the Lady Astronaut for reasons you'll find out in the second book in particular. And she wants to do the things that are traditionally, and even today, are still thought of as being male roles. Sexism is very much alive and kicking and doing extremely well in these books, especially in the 50s America. And this is something that the book addresses in a really interesting way, because she and her husband, who supports her completely, they don't think that just because you happen to be female, you should have to fix into certain roles. I mean, I believe that is stupid. I mean, there's nothing that a guy can do that a woman cannot do, frankly. So the characters in the book also think that, and they want to adapt the situation and try to change the situation to make it basically gender equality. Also about equality, there's also racial issues in the book, and racism gets discussed in a significant manner as well, because many of the other computers working alongside Elma are also happen to be non-white of various kinds, and this creates some interesting dynamics in ways, because at times she thinks she's speaking for them all, and then she realises actually she's not. She's actually kind of accidentally insulting them by saying certain things, but she's only trying to help. But it's an interesting dynamic. I'm not going to go into too much more detail because it's really interesting and really nice to read about, but it's a fantastic dynamic, and one that I think is really worth reading and exploring, both the sexism and racism aspects and the way it works within this world, and indeed works within Elma and her husband trying to fit in and trying to sort of adapt the world around them, and the world trying to adapt to them. It's an interesting situation. The other significant thing that these books address is anxiety, because Elma suffers from fairly severe anxiety. She takes medication for this anxiety. Obviously, this is not a good thing if she wants to be an astronaut, especially in the 50s, because that sort of thing was frowned upon quite heavily then, and it creates some interesting dynamics for her becoming an astronaut, and also it discusses the idea of anxiety in an interesting way. I don't have anxiety myself, so I can't say whether it's entirely accurate. From the people that I do know that do have anxiety, it seems relatively accurate, but I could be very much mistaken over this. This is not something I can judge because it doesn't apply to me, but it seems sort of accurate to me. I don't know, I'll leave that to people who actually do know what they're talking about a bit more intelligently than I can manage here. One interesting question that these books seem to raise for me is that, is the situation with gender equality only going to be able to be repaired and fixed if we have some kind of terrible disaster? Obviously not necessarily on this scale, but would something really unpleasant have to happen for us to actually have gender equality in not just America, obviously, I mean I'm not American, but globally as a whole, because it is still very much male oriented, and indeed it's still a patriarchy in most countries in the world, or virtually every country frankly, and women are still fighting for equality, unfortunately, because for some reason people seem a lot, specifically the white male patriarchy, hence why this book has got sexism and racism, are against anybody altering it, because of course they like power and they also like money, and they do tend to go arm in arm, as our current political situation both in England and America shows. People in power tend to have the money and they don't want to give up the opportunity to make more money, so they'll do some pretty unpleasant things to keep there, which leads to inequality and unevenness between people, which is unfortunate and something that I personally think needs to be changed and is discussed and brought up in the book. Although I think that was more of a side effect, actually, on a personal level, than the point of the book. I think she's trying to tell an interesting story about a woman who wants to go into space. The other things with gender equality and racial equality are just inadvertent but useful side effects of that, and it's really good because I think it's talked about and brought up extremely well. Overall, this is a really good, solid duology. This has a good, solid plotline with well developed and well thought out characters. The characters have real emotion behind them. Their conversation, however, sometimes can be a bit unusual. Their speech in particular can be a bit odd, but that's only very occasional that happens, and frankly it's very easy to forgive because the books are just so brilliantly well written. Obviously Kowal has researched all the concerns, technological and personal, in the book very heavily, and that shows because the book shows the intelligence throughout it. It's infused with intelligence, and it's an impressive duology and makes me want to read more by Kowal, which I will be doing in the future because it's really an impressive duology. Just well worded, well written and well thought of, and I'm just glad it was written because this is fantastic overall. I really would recommend this to science fiction fans who want something that is just well written, good characters, good plot. It's overall a good pair of books, frankly. And with that rather positive ending, I will indeed end the video. If you've read this duology or would like to, then please leave a comment and we can have a talk. If you've got any suggestions on what else to read by Kowal, because I actually have very little knowledge of what else she's written on purpose, I haven't looked into it, then please leave a comment because I'm always interested to know. All my social media links can be found in the description box below. That said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.